Hello, scholars, and welcome back. This is week 7 of CJ485 Methods of Research in Criminal Justice. Well, we should all be excited knowing that the end is very near. If we think about it, there's very few components of our research perspective that we still need to accomplish. One which is remaining is the methodologies chapter, and that is what we are going to tackle this week in week 7. Once we complete our methodologies chapter, we have all the pieces that all we need to finally do is put them all together and make our final research perspectives. So for many of you, the light is very near. This course is coming to a completion. One more task at hand, create our methodologies chapter. Put some good effort and thought into this week's assignment, and all the components will be completed. So that is what we're talking about this week, is our methodologies chapter. And that revolves around, or that encompasses, our field research and how we are going to go about getting our research, our methodologies. Remember, there is a data collection process. That data collection process is going to outline how we are going to collect data, who we are going to collect it from, who is going to be our population, who is going to be our sample, and then what we plan to do with that data. And those are going to be the segments that we are going to describe and spell out in this week's assignments. So to accomplish that, we are going to first do the readings out of Chapter 9 titled Field Research. And that is going to be supported with a PowerPoint on that same topic. And then we have 3 deliverables this week: our methodologies chapter, a quiz 7, and a week 7 discussion board. So let's jump right into our methodologies chapter. So for this week, we have our methodologies chapter that is going to be due on the 19th of August at 11:59 p.m. and it's a 75 point. So it's one of our larger assignments. So let me read this to you. Please submit a draft of your methodologies chapter here. I've attached a Word document for you to use as a template. You should download the document and complete each of the sections and then submit it as a single Word document. You will notice that most of the information you have already submitted in earlier assignments. It is in particular, the part of the chapter that deals with the subjects of the study really needs to be written clearly. Exactly who you will interview or survey, how you will find these participants, the questions concerning confidentiality is asked, and how you will handle the data so that the participant information can remain confidential. You will want to make a statement that no participant's name will be used in the final document and all information will be kept in a secure place that the researcher can access. Once again, if you have any questions as you progress through this document, please send me an email. And then I have the rubric that's associated with this, and we're looking for an intro, a research and hypothesis, a sample, the measurement, the data collection analysis, and the IRB requirement. So we're going to want that. So let's then look at this template that I have provided for you. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to describe our problem statement. And once again, let me backtrack. In academic writing, this isn't creative writing where you need to have flow and you need to have transition. In academic writing, it is common to use subheadings and placeholders. So with this subheading of problem statement, you would then literally cut and paste your previously accepted or the problem statement that you've adapted from feedback, and we're just going to plug that in. We're going to do the same thing with our purpose statement. Once again, adapting any issues that I have given you in feedback, or if it was good, we're just going to plug that right in. And then followed by our research question that we have been approved upon, that has been approved, or that you have adapted. So right there, 1, 2, and 3 are just going to be cut and pasted from our previous assignments. Then we're going to now expand upon our data collection, our participants, and our measurements. And each of these should be a few paragraphs or a couple paragraphs. And you're going to want to detail each one of these subsettings. So the first one is data collection. And the question that you will need to describe in detail is how will you collect data and discuss the limitations of data you expect to collecting using your research design. So each of you have a research design and there's a process in which you plan on collecting data. What is your instrument, this survey, these interviews? How are you going to collect that? Are you going to send out an online email? Are you going to hand out flyers? Are you going to strategically target certain individuals? You need to describe how you're going to do that and then the limitations that are associated with that. To give you an example from my studies that I've done, when I was doing my dissertation, I sent out an electronic survey to an archived group of individuals that were former participants in a program. It was a very large sample of 70,000 individuals, and I knew just from the understanding that individuals typically do not respond to online surveys. If you were to receive one in your email box, a lot of times those are just deleted. I knew that I was going to have a limited response rate. So that was a limitation, and I got 10,000 from the 70,000 I sent out. And that was understandable. And I described in detail why that was a limitation, that due to online surveys and people not typically responding with high percentages to them. And I just needed to explain that was going to be a limitation of my survey. So you need to describe your data collection process and any limitations. The next portion is going to be participants. And you will need to describe discuss your sample method selection method. Who are your participants? Who are you going to decide to take your interview, your survey? What is the demographics? Where are they located? How have you chose them? And how are you going to have them be your participants? Outline the methods of ethics and confidentiality to protect the participants. Once again, I'll describe to you an example. When I did my electronic survey, the results I had no personal information attached to them. Every participant was given a number, and that was the only way that that participant was identified. There was no names that were included. There was no addresses that were included. The information that I received was the answers to the survey and some demographics. Are you a male or a female or other? What is your age? And what zip code do you live in? Because I wanted to know what region of the U.S. they came from. And that was it. There was no way that I could connect the survey to the individual. On top of that, all the information was kept secure at a single source. And once the study was over, all that information was destroyed, so that there was no longer any of the data for the confidentiality of the individual. So that we know you're going to need to describe that for your unique study. And then finally, the measurements. What are the variables and how are they operationalized? Discuss the instrumentation and attach all surveys, interview questions, or other instruments as appropriate, and discuss reliability and validity. So remember, we've already accomplished A and B. We've talked about variables from your research questions. We talked about operationalizing our variables. If you're using words like good or how does it benefit or what is the impact, you're going to want to describe what those words mean to you in your survey. You're going to want to include the discussion on the instrumentation. So those surveys that we created in the previous weeks, you're going to want to talk about what your instrumentation is and attach those survey questions. And then finally, you're going to want to discuss reliability and validity, which is a difficult topic for us because if we are understanding how do we make our study reliable and valid. As remember, when I always read this, I always think of that as researchers, we need to be unbiased, that we should not have bias towards our topic. We should come in as researchers with an open mind and not be predetermined in what direction we believe our study is going to go. And that's very difficult, especially since I asked you to first choose a topic and find a topic that you're passionate on. And because you're passionate about this topic, there's a good chance that you're already biased. So if I'll give you an example, many of you are talking about gun violence. There's several topics that involve some sort of gun violence. And many of your questions talk about mass shootings, gun violence, school shootings. And the very first question that you need to think of, or the concept or the perception is, do you believe that there is actually a problem with gun violence? Is there a problem with school violence? Is there a problem with mass shootings? Many of you are assuming that there is a problem, that everyone who takes your survey is going to agree with you and come up with some sort of solution or some sort of information or data based upon that. But your first question should be, do you believe that there's a gun issue in America? Second question, uh, what do you believe blank 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 is the solution? Have you encountered gun violence yourself in prior? Uh, that first question is the one that will shed or will guide you away from being a biased. For many of your questions, I've given you feedback to try to get away from being biased, but you need to discuss how is your study going to be reliable and valid, not have a predetermined bias, and what layers are you going to incorporate into your study in order to have this. For many times it is, if you the first question is, do you believe there's a gun problem in America? You don't want to interview 10 people that say yes, there's a gun problem in America. You would want to interview 5 people that believe there's a major problem and 5 people that doesn't think it's a major problem, and then combine those answers and report on that data. That's one way to get around bias to then to determine that you have reliability, that there's validity to your study. Also, for many of you, you just want to have a larger sample size. That's the easiest way to ensure validity, is to incorporate a lot of people. Remember, you are going to say that your results are representative of your population. So if I am speaking on behalf of parents of children, and my study is on school violence, my results are going to be representative of all people who have children in school. So I would want to open up my population or my sample size, that I have enough people that I'm asking that I can actually say that this is representative of all school-aged parents or parents of school-aged children. This is representative of all school-aged parents of individuals in California, in Southern California, in Riverside County. So if you just get a larger sample size and you report on that, my intent is to have a very large sample size of a certain number to ensure I have reliability and validity. And you just need to spell that out. So once again, your problem statement, your purpose statement, your research question, and then describe in detail your data collection process, your participant process, and your measurement process. And that will make up our methodologies chapter. So once again, here we go, methodologies chapter. Sunday by 11:59, follow the rubric, follow the template, and you'll be fine. The second component, deliverable this week, is going to be our week 7 quiz. True, false, multiple choice. No time limit, but once it is open, it needs to be completed, so good time management, and that is going to be based upon the readings this week. And then finally, we have a discussion board. In our discussion board, we're going to share our feelings with our classmates, discuss the pros and cons of field research with your classmates, in particular, discuss the potential problems that can occur with the participant or with the participant observer research design, comment on the postings of at least 2 of your classmates. And that goes hand in hand with our readings this week. So what are some disadvantages or advantages of doing research? If I am going to observe my participants, can I honestly observe my participants? Do my participants, are they going to act differently if they know they're being observed? If I bring you into a test and say, hey, I'm going to be testing you, are you going to act differently? And can I get a true indicator of your behavior? If you fill out a survey, do people fill out surveys based unbiased? To give you an example, when it comes to someone rating their own health, the studies have shown and the research has shown that people who are in good physical conditioning normally rate themselves much lower, and people who are in poor physical conditioning normally rate themselves higher. And the logic behind that, is obviously up to debate, but it's interesting. And those are some of the pros and cons that you'll want to discuss with your classmates when it comes to potential problems that can occur with your participants. So I think this will be a good discussion board this week, and those are our 3 deliverables. So once again, if we have any concerns, questions, or comments, get a hold of me soon. We want to get this final building block of our prospectus done, finish out our methodologies chapter, and then week 8 is just going to be a quick put it together, make sure it's all clean and there's a decent flow to it, and we are done with our critical assignment. So I look forward to our final methodologies chapter, putting it together, reading about how you are going to measure this data, collect this data, and what you plan to do with this data. So I look forward to reading all that. Any questions, get a hold of me, and I look forward to the next time we can talk. So bye for now.